Hey, what's up guys, it's TechSummer, talking to you here. And in today's video, I want to talk about the M2 MacBook Air. And why in 2023, the M2 MacBook Air is really, in my opinion, a great choice. Why in 2023, I'm finally ready to recommend the M2 MacBook Air. After 6 months of its release, and after me doing several reviews, comparison videos, I think I'm ready to recommend this computer. And for one little reason. Because the price has dropped. As you have seen on my thumbnail and title, the M2 MacBook Air is cheaper. Finally, we can find it on refurbished Apple Store. You can find it on several stores on a big discount, $100, $150, $200 off the base model M2 MacBook Air. And even higher end storage and RAM configurations are available for a discounted price on Apple refurbished store. So I'm really excited to tell you why finally this amazing computer from Apple is ready to be bought. But before we do that, do not forget to drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for your really amazing support. Let's get started. The M2 MacBook Air was released on the summer of 2022 and in my opinion was a really good computer. I bought the M2 MacBook Air, I reviewed the M2 MacBook Air and I sent it back because I have my M1 Max MacBook Pro 16-inch. But the M2 MacBook Air was really good. At that time, I loved to use that computer. But I could not recommend the M2 MacBook Air to almost anyone because it was sitting on a very weird place at the time. It costs, starting point, $1,200, $200 more than the M1 MacBook Air, and only shy from around the discounted 14-inch MacBook Pro of $500. This was just the base model with 256 gigabytes of storage and the very slow storage, not the fast one, even slower than the M1 MacBook Air. And it only had 8 gigabytes of RAM and oh my god, it only had a bin M2. So yeah, it was completely bare bone computer. So if you wanted more, you would have to especially pay more, and right away it would be very stupid to do it, because if you went up storage and RAM, you'll be close to $1,500, and by that price and by that time you can already find out some used 14-inch MacBook Pros with the M1 Pro, 512 gigabytes of storage, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and so much better features like the display, keyboard, mouse, hardware, I/O, so much better than the M2 MacBook Air. And I was left in a very complicated situation. Just like every other reviewer, I was telling you guys, the M2 MacBook Air is a great machine, but I cannot recommend you. I totally recommend if you want a cheap MacBook Air, go for the M1, and if you want a little bit more than that, save a little bit extra cash and go for the 14-inch MacBook Pro. Is so much worth it. But now I think that the M2 MacBook Air has reached its sweet spot. The M2 MacBook Air now is on sale for around $1,000, $1,050, and this is great news because finally we are getting the M2 MacBook Air for that original $1,000 price tag. And for that money, the new redesigned MacBook Air with the new bezel size, which is even bigger, it's 13.6, before it was 13.3, now it's 13.6. It's much better, it has extra 100 nits of brightness. The new design makes it a lot better. The MagSafe Sport, the amazing Thunderbolt 4 ports, in comparison, it's a much newer design, and in my opinion, much better. And the M2 has also extra performance on top of the M1. So all of this for the original price of the M1 MacBook Air is so much better. Of course, the M1 MacBook Air is also cheaper, so you had to weigh those things out. But for $1,000, finally, I can recommend you going for the M2 MacBook Air. Of course, if you start upgrading the M2 MacBook Air, you have to be very careful again. Like I explained in my review, and I will explain again, the M1 Pro 14-inch MacBook Pro is on sale for around $1,600. So it's really easy to find a really good computer for that price. But the M2 MacBook Air is also really easy to reach those types of prices. You just spec out this M2 MacBook Air refurbished with 1 terabyte of storage, with the non-bin version of the M2 and the 16 gigabytes of RAM, and you will find out yourselves on the same price tag. So be very careful when buying an M2 MacBook Air. I completely advise it for going for the complete base model. If you just want a really good computer, finally the M2 MacBook Air is the real laptop replacement for the M1 MacBook Air. Now the M2 MacBook Air costs what it should have cost when it was launched. But I understand why Apple did it. Normally when they release a new redesigned M2 MacBook Air, they increased the price by $200, and after 2-3 years, they lowered the price after they update the CPU. That's normal, and I expect that to happen. Of course, a $1,000 M2 MacBook Air is a really, really good deal, so I will leave a link down in the description below. Of course, the M2 MacBook Air has tons of colors, but the one I would recommend to you if you really like matte colors like the iPhone 7 right there, or even black matte from the iPhone 14 Pro, my recommendation would be the Midnight Blue MacBook Air. That's, my opinion, my favorite color. Of course, the computer that I bought when I reviewed was the complete base model, the $1,200 model, and after 2 weeks of using it, I can tell that I had no problems running my channel on that computer. So if you do light video editing tasks or even medium heavy video editing tasks, play like light games or even doing some Xcode, that's fine. I think that computer will be just fine for you. The MacBook Air finally has reached the point where I can recommend to 90% of people that want to buy a MacBook. And then of course there's the extra 10% that want the extra performance. Then of course it makes really sense to buy the 14-inch MacBook Pro. But still, the 14-inch MacBook Pro is still an amazing deal. Like, not by telling you, oh, you should buy the M2 MacBook Air. Now no one should buy the 14-inch MacBook Pro. No, if you want promotion, if you want better I/O, it totally justifies itself to go for the 14-inch MacBook Pro. But now that the M2 MacBook Air has gone down this in price, I still have to recommend it. Like in 2023, I gotta tell you, finally, it's worth it to buy the M2 MacBook Air. And if you can find it refurbished or used, even used, because used is the sweet spot, refurbished you will find it cheap, not that cheap though, like $100 off, $150 off max, but the used models will go down even more. You can find it probably for $900, $950 on eBay. So take a look if you are comfortable buying used computers. Other than that, I think that the M1 MacBook Air is also an amazing choice if you want the complete cheapest MacBook ever made. And for that CPU performance, for that design, still, for that battery life, the M1 MacBook Air is still, in my opinion, the best value computer. But I understand why people would like to go for the M2 MacBook Air. The appeal is higher, has a new design, it has the new screen bezels, it doesn't look as ancient as the M1 MacBook Air. And for only $1,000, I think now it's a really, really good deal. Of course, in my opinion, if you want the cheapest Mac available, the M1 Mac Mini is also a great choice. The M1 Mac Mini is, in my opinion, a complete underrated computer, and I cannot wait for Apple to release the M2 Mac Mini. Of course, I would like Apple to also release the M2 Pro Mac Mini for around $1,100, the same price as the current Intel Mac Mini, but we'll have to wait. That's an expensive computer for Apple to make, not for us, but for Apple, because Apple will cannibalize a lot of the sales from the MacBooks if they do that. So I think that Apple wants to wait until they mature the Apple Silicon lineup even more, until they sell more MacBooks, they make even higher margins on their computers so they can pay off this transition, and then they will probably start to release the M2 Pro Mac Mini, probably start to release the 27-inch iMac Pro, because that cannibalizes on the Mac Studio and the combo with the Studio Display. And I think after a few years, I think Apple will diversify their Apple Silicon lineup. Until now, I think they will start focusing only on these current lineups they have right now. But you are probably asking yourself right now, what about the 15-inch MacBook Air? How could it change the M2 MacBook Air landscape? Well, I will talk about very quick in this video because I want to make a separate video on this matter, but the 15-inch MacBook Air is a very special computer. In my opinion, if Apple decides to release a 15-inch MacBook Air, it should start around $1,700, and this computer should compete directly with the 14-inch MacBook Pro in a way that people would like to have the decision of, do I want the bigger size or do I want the better specs? Then this way, Apple can compete the two markets. Say, do you want a bigger screen and better battery, or do you want promotion, do you want better I/O and a more powerful computer? You'll have this decision, and then this works like a ladder on, of course, the iPad lineup and the iPhone lineup with the 14 Plus and the iPad Air. Be very, very careful when buying these types of products. In my opinion, I will recommend the Pro, because the Pro always has better features for almost the same price. But in the case of the 15-inch MacBook Air, I think that would be a very appealing computer, because a lot of people just want that big sized laptop, and for them it just makes sense to spend $200 less. Of course, they don't get promotion, but they get a bigger sized display, they get bigger batteries, so better batteries, and they don't have to spend $2,600, $2,300 on the 16-inch MacBook Pro and get that extra performance that they will never utilize. So the 15-inch MacBook Air makes a lot of sense in my opinion, and it will complete the Mac lineup like never before. Finally, we will get a complete $1,000 to $2,000 range. This has been a very weird spot to be on the Mac lineup for the last few years, since Apple killed the normal MacBook and killed the 13-inch, 15-inch MacBook Pros, and this is a very weird place. The prices have been very weird. Like right now they have the M1 MacBook Air for around $999, they have the $1199 M2 MacBook Air base model, and then they have a huge jump for the $1999 14-inch MacBook Pro. Of course, I'm completely forgetting the $1,300 M2 MacBook Pro, because that computer sucks. No one should buy that computer. It's terrible. But if Apple could fill this gap between these two computers with a 15-inch MacBook Air with the M2, middle ground specs like 512GB of storage, and of course the non-bin version of the M2, then I think it would make very much sense to buy this computer. It will appeal to the masses and finally make the M2 MacBook Air lineup complete. I think that the M2 MacBook Air right now makes so much sense. For $1,000, it's an amazing lightweight laptop. I can run my channel on it, definitely, so 99% of you watching this video can do all of the stuff that you do on your computer. It's light, it's portable, it's beautiful, and in my opinion, it's the best lightweight Apple computer ever. With the M2 chip, it runs like a beast. The only problem before was the price and the upgrade ladder, because when you start adding storage, adding RAM, it would get very much expensive, too close to the 14-inch MacBook Pro, which in my opinion is the best value Apple computer like ever made. It's just so good. It's just ridiculous what you can get for $1,700 now on a discount. But I think the M2 MacBook Air has hit that point of maturity since it was released, that now we've seen some discounts, used computers on the market, that it really makes sense to go for one of those options. And if you do, you will be very happy. My experience with the M2 MacBook Air was insane, was incredible. I loved every second of it. And if I had money for it, I will buy one for myself, just to carry to university, coffee shops, where I can do my light work, and then I would have my 16-inch MacBook Pro at home, or trains, or planes, or trips, where I have to bring all of my big performances for a long period of time. But let me know in the comments down below what you think about this. Do you think that the M2 MacBook Air is a good buy right now for $1,000, or do you think that the M2 MacBook Air is flawed since the beginning? And also, did you buy an M2 MacBook Air, and do you agree that Apple should release a 15-inch MacBook Air? According to rumors, they will this year, 2023. I cannot be more excited than that. And if you are also excited, don't forget to drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And when the 15-inch MacBook Air gets released, be sure that I will cover it. This has been Tech Summer talking to you here. Bye.